he wanted to look at music. He felt that was a great way to bring young people, but he didn't want to lose his demographic.
Right.
He had the blue collar, the cops, that kind of thing. And we were like, well, rock and roll, if you have young rock and roll bands and we bring you older rock and roll bands, you're not going to lose your older demographic, but you're going to also bring in the younger demographic.
One of the reasons that we wanted to have Alex on is to talk about branding. Now, here you're talking about a business that was originally founded in 71, closed down in 87, just came back a couple of years ago, and here we are recreating something that the industry turned on its head, right? I mean, let's face it, music is music. But still, the entire industry turned on its head. There was no iTunes channel going back, and the way the barrier to entry was much harder years ago. How did you crack that? How did you solve the complexities of maintaining such a brand, yet the whole industry turned on its head?
Well, a lot of it had to do with the experience that the people in Long Island had. My Father's Place was a unique club in that it really was the only club of its type, of its size, about 500 people. And it played every type of genre. So pretty much if you were interested in any kind of music in Long Island, whether it could be rock to reggae to pop, you went to My Father's Place. And we knew we could appeal to that demographic. That demographic was going to be where we were going to relaunch this brand. And what was nice is that the brand itself it was like smoking. It was almost, all you had to do was put a match and boom. The enthusiasm was tremendous. It was like all these people who were now in their late 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s, it was like reliving their memories. They wanted to come back. This is where they met their wives, their girlfriends. They saw their first band. Some of them played there. I mean, for them, it was a life-changing experience. And so it really, really, hit home for them. And we when we saw that, we knew, well, we can take this further. And that's why we're doing other media and things like that. But the other thing about branding and building this brand is we recognize that music sells everything. Music not only is in itself, my father says, is not only in itself a brand, but it can help other brands. And we recognize that. Epi and I were working on this before when we worked with most of the major, everybody from Budweiser to Pepsi and things like that. And they sponsored most of our music and concerts that we wanted to do. And we recognized that we could help a brand sell their product by using music, because music, it has a very natural way of kind of communicating with people. It's its own language. So what we decided to do is actually take the lessons we learned working with other brands to make My Father's Place a bigger brand. And the first thing we want to do is we're doing that in conjunction with what we know about the music industry. And what we learned from the music industry is you would have a regional hit, or you would be a regionally popular band. You'd have a following in a city or something like that, and then you would grow out of that. And that's the strategy for My Father's Place. We knew we had a demographic. We knew we had a location. It's like start there, build it, get these people behind you, and then take the next step. And that's what we're doing right now.
Now, Alex, I do my homework on every guest that we had, and my understanding is that you've developed some partnerships with some really big players out there: Dunkin' Donuts, Hard Rock Cafe, Chrysler, Pepsi. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you to share anything that you're not allowed to share, but talk about that. How does it's not too daunting to deal with a Fortune 500 company like?
We were very fortunate in that we had a very big visibility. And so we could actually reach out to the CEOs themselves. And I'll give you an example. John Luther, who came to Dunkin' Donuts, he was the CEO at the time, a great man, had to turn a brand around. Right. They had been, Starbucks had basically passed them. And I learned from John Luther about the business, which was very important for us in how we help a brand. Teach us your business a little bit so we can help you. And the thing that he wants is, he says, I know we're not cool. We need to become cool. Mm. And we were like, we can help you. And he was very much concerned that he wanted to look at music. He felt that was a great way to bring young people, but he didn't want to lose his demographic.
Right.
He had the blue collar, the cops, right, that kind of thing. And we were like, well, rock and roll, if you have young rock and roll bands and we bring you older rock and roll bands, you're not going to lose your older demographic, but you're going to also bring in the younger demographic. Right. Right. So, and he was the kind of person, and this is where you really often have to work with the CEO because he was like, I'm going to take a chance with you guys. And so we did a bunch of major, major shows. And actually, we helped. It was at that time when Dunkin' Donuts really began to shift to a different look. They have a new look now. They really, really become their own place. And even back then, he told me, I'm thinking of taking Dunkin', the donuts out of the name.
Back then.
And what I learned was Dunkin' Donuts is the largest coffee seller in the world, and that's where it's at. And what had happened is Starbucks had passed them in terms of the amount of money they were making, but they were essentially selling the same product. So he was like, we have to really work on that and make young people come to a Dunkin' like they would come to a Starbucks. And so that's how we work.
Alex Ewan, from My Father's Place. Alex, your top takeaway that you would love to share with the listeners of Mind Your Business.
Well, My Father's Place was a product that disappeared for 30 years, and we brought it back. So you can do anything if you set your mind to it. I think the most important thing is put a good team together. Start with good investors, then put a good staff together, and think through what you have to do. Give them a good business plan so everybody knows what they have to do, so that ultimately everybody can move up as you expand and help you grow. I think that, for me, is the biggest thing. Put a good team together.
Unreal. And again, how could they find out more information?
Just go to myfathersplace.com.
That's simple. I love the honor of interviewing C-level executives and sharing their great advice and perspective on Mind Your Business. I'd love to get your feedback. Post it in the comments below and subscribe. You'll never miss an edition of Mind Your Business.